We've got team coverage with NBC 10's Deanna Durante and Stephen Fisher.
Deanna, we'll begin with you. I know you have been talking all day with neighbors who saved his ex-wife from that gunfire.
You can see where the car that Bruce Rogel was driving ended up here. You can see how it smashed the side of the house, and just above that crash site, you can see at least one bullet hole from the shootout that happened between Rogel and state police last night. People in this neighborhood are still trying to figure out what caused all of this.
We were out on the deck, and you heard this scream, and you heard this pop, 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 pop sound. I thought it was a kid screaming and fireworks.
Until Janice Everett says she heard more heading towards her.
She said her husband was trying to kill her.
Without thinking, Janice grabbed her neighbor.
Get in my house.
Well, he was shooting at her.
He was Bruce Rogel. Police say he and his wife had their divorce finalized just hours before he came to the Chester County neighborhood where she was living at the couple's home. The shooting was around 5:30.
I was just in the bathroom with her, just holding her.
He followed us right up to the deck. You know, I was hoping I didn't get shot in the back.
But Rogel left. Police did show up, and an all-out search began for him. By 6:15, Rogel had gone to the Bellingham retirement community, entered his parents' apartment, and shot them both in the neck before taking off. But Rogel wasn't spotted again for hours. So where was he? NBC 10 has learned he showed up at the East Fallowfield home of a friend, drank some beers and hung out, never telling that friend what had happened. Sources tell us after 1 a.m., Rogel was driving in rural Chester County. By this point, the subject of a manhunt. All available police were looking for him when a trooper in an unmarked car spotted Rogel and followed him. He was en route to his ex-wife's house. When troopers began following, a source close to the case says shots were fired, and Rogel drove right back to his old neighborhood where state police were waiting. More shots were fired, and Rogel didn't make it out alive. Here in West Bradford, neighbors will only say Rogel had problems, but they can't understand why he would go on a killing spree. Now, as we mentioned, there was a shootout between Rogel and state police. An autopsy is scheduled for later today to try and figure out what shot actually killed Rogel. Was it self-inflicted? Could it have been with the exchange of the gunfire with police? We can also tell you that investigators had police from state, local, and federal help to swarm the area to try and protect anybody else that they felt may have been in Rogel's path. They say while 2 people were killed, they are grateful that there were not a larger loss of life here or the surrounding area. Reporting live in West Bradford Township, Deanna Durante, NBC 10 News.
And our live team coverage continues with NBC 10's Stephen Fisher.
And Stephen, you've been digging into this new divorce order that appears to have set the suspect off.
Yeah, Keith, according to this paperwork here, these domestic abuse allegations against Rogel, they started in 2009. And his wife at the time, she did file for a PFA against him. And we also learned that their divorce, it just went final this week on Tuesday, just 1 day before he came here to their home and tried to kill her. Today, we are learning more about what led to 3 deaths and nearly a 4th in Chester County. Court documents obtained by NBC 10 show 59-year-old Bruce Rogel verbally and physically abused his ex-wife while they were still married at least 10 times between 2009 and 2015. The victim then filed for a protection from abuse order against Rogel in June of 2015. It expired 2 years later. But then on Tuesday, September 18th, the divorce papers became final, to which Rogel learned he lost their home here on Vermont Lane and other financial assets.
It was a really scary situation last night.
Neighbor Pauline Hart crossed paths with Rogel from time to time and says she never had a good feeling about him.
He was actually scary. I remember when I first moved on the street, he wasn't right.
And the restraining order and divorce papers, that was not the only thing we found on Rogel. We're going to have more on his past coming up tonight at 5. But for now, we're reporting live in Chester County. Stephen Fisher, NBC 10 News.
NBC 10's coverage continues online. Our digital team is updating the story as it continues to unfold. Log on to NBC10.com or you can download the free NBC 10 app.
Tonight in that shooting rampage that also saw the woman's in-laws killed by their son at a Chester County nursing home. Early this morning, police found Bruce Rogel dead in his car. Tonight, NBC 10 spoke exclusively to Rogel's neighbor. She was rushed out of her home as the manhunt got underway 24 hours ago. NBC 10's Drew Smith is joining us live from the police department in Westtown Township tonight with more on what may have triggered the violence. Drew?
And Jim, good evening. Police here are still investigating this, but what's becoming increasingly clear is the role this divorce, just finalized this week, played in setting off all the violence.
No comment.
Making repairs at this West Bradford home tonight, the woman who survived a shooting attack by her ex-husband did not want to speak, taping a tarp over the spot where her ex, Bruce Rogel, rammed into the house he lost in a newly finalized divorce.
He was very quiet. If you did engage with him, he was pleasant, but he was not generally social with most of the neighbors.
At the West Brandywine Township apartments where Rogel lived since his separation, people described the 59-year-old as withdrawn and a man who kept odd hours. But Deborah Gulick never thought she'd be rushed out of her home while police kicked her neighbor's door in.
Having to deal with a SWAT team definitely affected me physically, a little bit emotionally.
It was tense here during the manhunt last night.
Nobody's coming in. Unsheathe the machete and wait.
But police sources say Rogel went to a friend's house for a few beers, never mentioning shooting at his ex-wife and killing both his parents at a retirement community. He'd return to this house and die overnight after a police chase and shooting. Court documents revealed 10 verbal and physical abuse claims against Rogel. His ex-wife also filed for protection orders.
It's baffling that anybody could commit those crimes, but you never know what's going to trigger someone.
And while there is a lengthy paper trail of court documents involving the once married couple, there are few details in there that would reveal why he would target his own parents. We're live at the Westtown East Goshen Police Department. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
A mystery still tonight, Drew. All right, and you can read about witness accounts of the rampage on our website at NBC10.com, and you can be the first to get updates on major stories by making sure you have the free NBC 10 app. You can also sign up for breaking news alerts there. New at 11.